sort of start to feel invincible, which is a little bit dangerous. But, you know, I'm always in a controlled fire. I'm not going into real fires. The flames are real. But if I go into a fire and there's a problem, any one of us can yell fire out at any time. And then John Milinak and the special effects people will shut the fire down.
Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're talking to actor Christian Stolte. Christian, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. 13 seasons. You know, when you do the first one, do you think, okay, we're going to get there?
I'm not somebody who counts on anything, really. I was surprised. There's two different thoughts on that. At the beginning, there's how long will this show make it? And then there's how long will my character make it? Because I'm used to playing doomed characters. You know, when you're doing a pilot, I've done some pilots that never went and they seemed like good shows. And so, you know, you never know. So shooting the pilot was just its own little adventure. And you always bear in mind as an actor, this could be all there is to this. This could be never seen by anybody. That we had a little bit of an edge, I would say, with Dick Wolf's name being on our show. That guy knows how to put shows on the air and make them last for literally decades. But, yeah, there was still no guarantee that I, as the old guy who seems to be in the pilot a bit of a load, there was no reason for me to be expecting 13 years of longevity in that role. So, yeah, it's been one gradually unfolding, very pleasant surprise for me.
Well, for our viewers who have not ever seen Chicago Fire, why don't you tell me a little bit about your character?
My character is sort of a grunt. So you've got a lot of firefighters on our show who are upwardly mobile and who are trying to make it on squad, or they're trying to make it to lieutenant, or they're trying to make their bones, basically. My character was introduced as somebody who is past his prime. This was 13 years ago. He was past his prime, who is of questionable value, I think, to the truck company he serves on, and knows a lot. And I think the character evolved into more of a sage, more of a wise, the old head, the guy that can tell you how it used to be and what works and what doesn't and whatever. And then I think they kind of let the character evolve into someone who's a little more useful than he was originally intended to be. So my character drives the truck, operates the aerial ladder, and grouses and complains about how the world is changing in ways that are unpleasant for him. Now, the most recent thing is, you know, my character is also married to Trudy Platt from Chicago PD, who plays Amy Morton plays the desk sergeant on PD. But that is a relationship that happened very late in life. And my character has now decided, after 30-something years in the fire department, that he is going to try to make lieutenant. And so he's got this 11th hour ambition he's trying to give service to. And it's a bit of an uphill climb.
You know, I actually went to, because I do a lot of local stuff and I do a lot of radio, I got to do firefighter for a day, where you went to firefighter school and they're trying to teach politicians how tough it is and everything else like that, and the weight and carrying this thing and going into actual fires. I mean, it is unbelievably exhausting doing that. I mean, did they ever try to run you through any of that?
Oh, yeah, we all had to go through it's certainly not the full training that a real firefighter would go through, but no, we all had to go through an abbreviated version of the academy training. And that was, yeah, you're right. That was eye-opening, isn't it?
Scary. It was. But
we need, we need to sort of live that. We need to have lived that a little bit. It helps definitely, because we are working in real fire. I mean, it's not, post effect. It's not special effects. We're standing in real fire. And if anything, I've become too comfortable in it. You know what I mean? Like you put on your turnouts, you put on your bunker gear, and you sort of start to feel invincible, which is a little bit dangerous. But, you know, I'm always in a controlled fire. I'm not going into real fires. The flames are real. But if I go into a fire and there's a problem, any one of us can yell fire out at any time. And then John Milinak and the special effects people will shut the fire down. So I think I'm constantly aware that I'm in no real danger. But yeah, it's pretty harrowing.
I mean, a lot of people, when they see these calendars and they see how these guys are working out, they don't realize they have to work out because the weight, you can't just take your stuff off. You're always in it. And that's like 50, 60, 80 pounds on you. And,
Yeah, yeah, and you can, yeah, and carrying Jaws of Life or the, a K-12 saw, those things weigh too.
I mean, now the question is this. There's always people, like when I did Miami Vice a long time ago, and I remember being on the set dressed as an officer, and I was hanging out with the other police officers pretending I was an officer, and I was able to sell it for a little bit. I'm sure firefighters come to you and they go, well, this was real or this wasn't real. I mean, how tough is that?
Well, no, yeah, that's the funny thing. My dad was a cop, and he used to watch cop shows with that kind of detached scrutiny and whatever. And so firefighters will say, we would never. And I'm like, you guys, there haven't been nearly as many firefighter shows as cop shows. So you guys just got to get used to the idea that we're entertainment. This is not a documentary. And our show really is as much about the relationships between people as it is about the firefighting, But we have people on set to keep this pretty accurate. So to whatever degree we're able to keep it, and start with this lie: you go into a heavy fire, and there's zero visibility. We can't shoot like that. We can't show you a scene that takes place with no visuals for 3-4 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So we have to cheat reality a little bit. And beyond having to do that, what's necessary for the storytelling, we try to keep it pretty accurate, and we have experts on hand to help us with that.
When I think of being a firefighter and being a police officer, the tough thing about being a firefighter is you have to have 100% trust in the person you're going into this fire with. And, they always show the drama of these things, but at the same time, you're going, wait a minute, we have to get along or we're going to die.
And it is interesting because the reality is there are guys that don't get along, but man, they instantly set that aside when they've got to go in. They got a job to do, man. They can't, none of that stuff can matter. They can't carry petty squabbles into a fire. But yeah, that's interesting you bring that up. I was talking to Tony Ferraris about that. Tony plays Tony, the driver of Squad on our show, and he is a legit, real Chicago firefighter. He just retired less than a year ago. And I talked to him about that. It's all about there's a certain percentage of firefighters are men. It's kind of always been that way. It's probably changing gradually, and there are more and more female firefighters. And we were talking about, there are some old school guys that have a problem with that. And I was talking to Tony about it. He says, I don't give a damn about any of the details of the person next to me other than can I trust them? And so I thought that's exactly the right attitude.
I served in the Army a long time ago, and there was always a thing about having women in the field with you and issues like that. And the only issue I always had was the physicalness of it. Can you carry this stuff? Can you do that? And a firefighter, there's a lot of weight. I mean, a lot of weight. And I guess if the person can drag the weight, then, anybody can do it.
That's really what it comes down to. And also the reality in any rescue situation is you may occasionally need the smallest person you can get to get into a tight space, to get access to somebody or something like that. So, anyone who takes the job seriously and gives it their all and can be relied on has a place as far as I'm concerned.
The one thing that bothered me the most when I went to this firefighter school for a day was they said the guy with me was this big lieutenant. He listens to me on the radio. He goes, you want to do the full version or you want to do like the tourist version? And I was, I'm macho. I was like, yeah, let me do the full version. At the end, they make you go through this claustrophobic set of you crawl into this building. You can't see anything. I mean, you barely fitting in this tube. I mean, you don't think of that when you're fighting fires. You think you're just kicking in doors. You don't realize you're going to be in cramped spaces that you might not be able to get in and out of.
Yeah, you just triggered some memories for me when you said that, because that sounds exactly like what we had to do in the training. And yeah, zero visibility, crawling through the floors, hugging the left wall and sweeping with your right leg and feet as you're crawling because you're trying to find any body that might be unconscious in there.
Yeah, it could be. They don't realize it's not the fire alone. It's frightening. There are times that you're like I said, it's the claustrophobia. It's the inability to see, breathing, having to draw air. It's not like you breathe normally. You have to pull the air through the regulator. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, you do. You have to trigger the valve.
But now you're sitting
here.
Yeah,
it's a tough job. We don't think about it enough.
Yeah, I'm just blown away by it, and I'm glad that at least they gave you guys the experience of it. Not the full school, but at least you go, hey, this is hard.
I'm grateful for all the real firefighters we have around us all the time, because anytime there's something I haven't done in a while, it's like, hey, how do I hold this? Or when I'm holding the spreaders, do I, and there's always a real firefighter right there to show me. So we're well equipped on our show.
Now, what blows my mind is this: you spent almost over 20% of your life on this show.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it just
Yeah,
seems
I mean,
like a lot.
how on earth is that? Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the entirety of my 50s, I was 49 when we started the show. I'll turn 62 next month. I don't know what to say about it. It's insane. As an actor, you never think a job could possibly last this long.
Now, I guess there's a good thing, because being an actor is a transient existence sometimes. You've been able to keep your roots. You've been living in Chicago for this many years. I mean, I can't imagine what kind of gift that is.
I'm very lucky. And also that they made my character ultimately a lovable guy, because I was coming off of a movie called Law Abiding Citizen, where I played one of the most reprehensible characters you've ever seen before. So they did me a favor in terms of my public image by making me just sort of a lovable cat.
But that happens over a period of time. I mean, you're talking 13 times 22 scripts, over around 300 episodes. I mean, your character has to change over time, or you're just background.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah, you want your character to be somewhat dynamic, but you also want them to be steadfast in a way where they're not heading for some inevitable crash, because a crash usually means you're out of here.
I mean, that's a nightmare situation. You open up a script and you go, wait a minute, hold on. Are they going to kill me off next episode?
I know. That did happen at the end of, I think it was at the end of last season, where I guess it was the season before that. It's all one long show to me at this point, but I read the script, and one of the head writer then called me or emailed me, I forget which, and said, hey, when you see the script, I don't want you to think you're going to die, blah, 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 because my character gets hit with shrapnel and ends up bleeding out in the hospital and whatever. So I'd like to think, and I hope I'm right about that, Jeff, I'd like to think that I'll get a heads up when my character is going to be killed off or whatever is going to happen to him, and that I won't find out the most uncomfortable way.
I had a buddy of mine who was
But it won't be soon.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine who was in Walking Dead, and anybody could be taken out at any moment. And I love the show, and you can't tell anybody you've been killed. And I'm watching this episode, and they kill him in a field, and I'm like, what happened?
Who was this?
A friend of mine, Carlos Navarro.
Yes, I remember that well. Yeah, that's a tough show.
Yeah. Everyone's on. You could be taken out. Now you're watching the show. Now you've had friends on your show that they go, I guess we're writing this character out. We're going to kill him. I mean, do they give you guys a heads up, or is it just like you're as surprised as the audience?
No, what'll happen, just from experience, what ends up happening is that person gets taken out to lunch, if you know what I mean, and they're explained, hey, we're going to do this with the character, and it's going to result in blah, 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 and it's a story thing, and it's not you, and whatever they'll say to appease the person, and I'm sure what they're saying is fairly accurate. But what happens then is the actor will probably call each one of us individually to tell us. We're pretty tight. We're all pretty tight. I mean, there's a lot of genuine love between our cast members. And so, yeah, everyone takes it. When it's time to go, everyone takes it upon themselves to call the cast members individually and tell them that they're leaving.
I can't even imagine what that phone call's like. You're sitting there and hey, Bobby, how are you doing? I got bad news, Chris.
Yeah, it's really tough. It really is, because some of these people are part of the reason you go to work. Like, I think about Yuri Sardarov, who played Otis and did 7 seasons on Truck with me. And when he called me to say it, man, I teared up. I did. He was one of the reasons I liked going to work. So, my day is going to come. Everybody's day is going to come. But, yeah, I still hold a place for all those people.
It's strange, but it's a lot easier, I think, when they cancel a show than when one person gets canceled, because, then you're going, well, what happened? And they say it's about the story, but sometimes it's about other things. Now you don't work during the summer, so you're able to take other jobs. I mean, do you fill it up?
Well, we We usually start July 19th. That's
Okay.
usually our startup date, and we go till May. So, and I'm an older gentleman, so sometimes I'm not really looking to do any work during the hiatus. I just want to chill. Um, so yeah, it takes most of the year to make a season.
I remember they had a lot more time. I guess it's because it takes longer to shoot shows. I mean, that seems like you get like a month and a half off.
It depends on how late we go. Sometimes we have a lot of setbacks, and it throws us off, and we end up eating up 2 weeks of our hiatus or whatever. But typically, it's sometime in the beginning of May, sometime in early May, and then we go back in July. So it's a couple months. Yeah. Speaking of the cast members that leave, I mean, one of the biggest chasms in the show was Eamon Walker leaving as Chief Bowden at the end of last season. I mean, that was a big, difficult goodbye, and now that the season opens with, how is he going to be replaced? Who's going to come in and replace him? What will be the impact of that? Bowden was a rough character, but Bowden had compassion, and he understood us, and he gave us a certain leeway because he knew us well. The new guy can't be expected to do that because he doesn't know us at all. And what's that going to do? How's that going to affect the dynamic of the show? And it's Dermot Mulroney coming in to replace him, a phenomenal actor. And he's so good in the role, and he's kind of inscrutable at first, so it's hard for us to figure out what his impact is going to be. But the actor himself is a lovely human being. He fits right in. He's super smart, super funny, very compassionate man, and just a pleasure to work with. So that's good news anyway. Where the character takes the house is still up in the air.
That's a nice little addition. I mean, when you hear that, when you're going, okay, I'm losing my friend, I'm losing this person I loved, and I wonder who they're going to replace him with, and then they give you a gift. It's somebody you know. It's somebody you know that carries a certain amount of clout. When you first get to meet a character like an actor like that, is it just like, wow, this is cool?
Well, it's for me, nothing about. I was familiar with his work, of course, as most people are, and nothing about him in any performance ever gave me any kind of vibe that he was going to be, this guy might be tricky or whatever. And it turns out he was just beyond agreeable. He's just a smart guy. He's very engaged. He's one of those, he talks to people and he wants to know about them. There's no ego to him whatsoever. Super easygoing guy. And I was relieved to discover that.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to work with. And you don't know the personality of somebody, especially somebody who has gotten a lot of success. You're hoping that they're down to earth. You're hoping they're grounded. And I guess that must have been a great surprise for you.
It was a relief because we have never had to deal with actor egos on our show. Everybody keeps that in check. Everybody's cool. None of us take ourselves too seriously. And it would have been a real bit of a nightmare if we suddenly had somebody who was throwing their weight around or making things difficult or whatever. So everybody loves him. Everybody in the crew loves this guy, and there's no reason not to love him. So, yeah, I'm very thankful that we ended up with somebody of that quality.
Well, we've got about a minute left. Why don't you tell people how we can watch the show?
Okay, if you need to catch up, you can go to Peacock and quickly binge. You've got time right now to binge the entire season. No, maybe you probably don't.
200 and something episodes.
I was just thinking the season, but yeah, you're right. It's formidable to try to take on the entire series. But we are on the entire One Chicago season premiere is tonight on NBC. Chicago Med at 7 Central, Chicago Fire at 8 Central, Chicago PD at 9 Central. And, we're all coming out of the gate. All three shows are coming out of the gate strong. And in our case, I can say for sure with a bang.
Well, it was great talking to you, Chris, and I hope to talk to you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.